Welcome to the Virtual Memories Show. I'm your host, Gil Roth, and you're listening to a weekly podcast about books and life. Not necessarily in that order. You can subscribe to the Virtual Memories Show on iTunes, or use our RSS feed with your favorite podcatcher. You can find the RSS feed on our websites, vmspod.com or chimeraobscura.com/vm. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud at vmspod, on Facebook at facebook.com/virtualmemoriesshow, and on Tumblr at virtualmemoriespodcast.tumblr.com. You can support this podcast and get access to exclusive content with a recurring monthly donation via Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/vmspod and set up your level of support. Every week you'll get new material from our patron-only blog, and you'll also get to listen to my monthly bonus podcast, Fear of a Square Planet, which features extra material from our guests and is only available to supporters of the show. So visit patreon.com/vmspod or paypal.me/vmspod and help me continue to produce smart conversation about books, art, comics, and culture every week at the Virtual Memories Show. It's been a pretty crazy week. There was no work travel, but there was a ton of work. I also managed to get in 4 podcasts between Thursday and Sunday, which involved, just over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday was about 8 hours of driving to get in these various shows because of location, traffic, etc. Now, I'm recording this on Monday. On Tuesday, I'll be down in Maryland to give a presentation down at the FDA, which I'm usually pretty ready for, except that this one, at the last minute, they mentioned that, by the way, there's no PowerPoint. This is just a verbal presentation. Now, I'm no PowerPoint guy or anything like that. In fact, it was one of the great points of pride in my life that until 2013, I'd never actually had to make a PowerPoint in my life. That said, I had spent the previous 3.5 weeks with our working group in this particular subject area developing a PowerPoint deck for the presentation with all sorts of slides of data and that sort of stuff. So it's a good thing we embedded a whole bunch of talking points in it because that's now going to be the substance of my presentation. But the plus side is I got those 4 podcasts done, and that's the important thing, right? I will say over the last 2 weeks, I was getting kind of stressed about recording the same week that the show goes up. This episode is the first of that 4 in a 4-day stretch, and it's with Charif Majdalani, author of the novel Moving the Palace, which was recently published in English by New Vessel Press. Now, Moving the Palace initially came out in France in 2008 under the title Caravanserai, or however you pronounce it correctly. And it is a phenomenal novel. In short, it's about this Lebanese explorer in the early 20th century who winds up hauling a palace from Tripoli piece by piece across the continent, trying to bring it back to his home in Lebanon. And all the while he's helping negotiate British interests in North Africa, encountering these various kingdoms and tribes. And it's all, the narrator or the writer is ostensibly the grandson of the explorer, so you sort of get this cross-temporal vibe to it all, or at least a knowingness about where things are going to end up. It's just a really beautiful book, and it spans politics and myth, romance, history. It's got a little metafictional vibe and a lot more. And it manages to do all that in the span of like 200 just gorgeously written pages. In fact, when we talk during the episode, you'll hear that it reminds me of some of my favorite novels. I'm not going to tell you which ones now, but it comes out when we start talking. Moving the Palace is just this absolute joy to read. It's really a magical book, and I'm so glad the publisher brought it out in America. Speaking of the publisher, New Vessel Press is a newish, founded 2012, indie publisher specializing in translation of foreign literature into English. And I met one of the co-founders, Michael Z. Wise, at the Festival New Literature back in March. And he checked out the podcast, enjoyed it, suggested that I consider Charif's book when he's coming over for the book tour this month, and that led to this episode. And in fact, we recorded at Michael's apartment last week, and it was just the day after Charif and his wife and 2 kids arrived in the States. The funny thing was, after we made the initial arrangements, Michael and I, he wrote me to say, I just realized Charif and I have only ever talked or corresponded in French, and so I don't know how good his English is, Gil. To play it safe, we decided to send Charif the episode that I did with Lorenzo Mattotti, since Lorenzo was also uncertain that his English would be up to par. And this helped show that I'm capable of actually toning down my interviewer voice and all those crazy asides and little digs that I make in favor of the person on the other end of the mic actually understanding what I'm saying. So he decided to give it a shot, and Michael actually sat in on the session and chimes in once or twice to help Charif out. Anyway, Moving the Palace. It's an absolutely wonderful novel. It's out in paperback now from New Vessel Press in a translation by Edward Gauvin. Well, Gauvin. I'm going to give it a French pronunciation. And you should give it a read. It will sweep you away. It's just a wonderful book, and it makes me very happy that I have this gig that exposes me to stuff like this. So here's Charif's bio. Charif Majdalani, born in Lebanon in 1960, is often likened to a Lebanese Proust. Majdalani lived in France from 1980 to 1993 and now teaches French literature at the University Saint-Joseph in Beirut. The original French version of his novel, Moving the Palace, won the 2008 François Mauriac Prize from the Académie Française, as well as the Prix Tropique. And now, the Virtual Memories conversation with Charif Majdalani. Before we talk about Moving the Palace itself, can you talk a little about what it's like to return to a novel that you published almost 10 years ago and to kind of bring it back into the forefront for yourself as you have this new edition coming out in English? What was it like for you revisiting this novel, and which is a way of asking, are you a different person now than you were when you wrote the book?
No, because I think that all my books are similar. It's not the same story from one book to another, but all my books tell the same stories, the same problems, and the characters are from one book to another the same, adventures and stories about homes, houses. I have I used to read again my books, or not read all the books I wrote before, but I have pleasure to come back to the book, and I take a book and I read some pages. Somebody tells me one day, I read recently Caravanserai, Moving the Palace in French, and I like it very much. So I remember, I take the book, I read some pages to know how this people, or this friend, what this friend discovered in this book. So I am connecting to my books, to my old books, and I think it's I'm the same person from a book to another, and the same writer, and my try is to make not a book after a book, but an opera.
Sort of a continuum?
A continuing, yes, a continuing, une œuvre. Complete work, yes. From one book to another, you have a continuity. And all this, I hope my French publisher wants to one day to make to publish my 5 first books with and named the books of not Quatuor but Quatuor of Beirut. So I think it's the same story continued from one book to another. Not pas de rupture. It's not
without a break.
Without a break. Yes.
Was that intended on your part, or did you start to recognize the same themes or the same,
Yes, I was. I had the project from the first book till now, and project was to tell the story of Lebanon and Middle East and all societies of Mediterranean world from the beginning of 20th century till now. And I began with my first book was about a story, I reinvented the story of my first, my grandfather from my father. And the second one is inspired from the life of my grandfather from my mother. And after it was, I advance in the time till now. It's beginning of the 20th century, the First World War, and the 30 years, glorious years. In French, we say the Trente Glorieuses between 45 and 75. And now I am coming to relate the story of the modern times in the Middle East and the civil war in Lebanon. So the project was to begin in the last 19th century till now. Mm-hmm. So it's my project from the first book and from the beginning. Yes.
I was concerned because when Michael, your American publisher, first mentioned you to me, he said he's really the Lebanese Proust. And I was afraid the Moving the Palace is going to be 3,000 pages long. So I was very thankful that it's only about 200. But do you see everything being captured within those 5 books, or do you see this project continuing beyond?
But you find the sentences are very long in these books, like Proust's sentences, or it's okay?
Yeah, well, it's funny. The books it reminded me of the most, rather than Proust, and if you tell me, Gil, I've never read any of these, I don't know what you're talking about, I'll be crushed, but Calvino's Invisible Cities,
yeah, okay.
The Leopard, or Il Gatto Pardo by Lampedusa.
Lampedusa, yes.
And weirdly, Sword of Honor by Evelyn Waugh, the trilogy he did about World War II.
Yeah.
Sort of the World War I aspects of this.
Yes.
I felt echoes of some of what I just read the Waugh about 3 or 4 months ago, so that's why it was so fresh for me. But so yeah, if anything, the fabulous nature of it, that a Calvino inspired aspect, I think was for me the most resonant. But we'll go with Proust.
I'm honored for it.
Good.
Thank you very much. Lampedusa, in this. When I wrote my 4th book, in the last one, Villa des Femmes, many journalists and critics say that it's very. It reminds Lampedusa. So I am a great lecturer of Lampedusa and Visconti also, the Gapardo. Okay. Sorry.
But yeah, the Proustian nature of what you're up to. And do you see it continuing past those 5 books? Where do you go from here, I guess?
I don't think it's. No, the question was about Proust or about the
project.
The project, yes. But why we came to Proust?
Because Michael described you as the friend, the Lebanese Proust, and I was concerned.
But I have a problem with the comparison with Proust, because Proust is one of my favorite writers, and maybe I am very influencé.
Intimidated?
No, influenced by Proust and other writers like Proust, like Claude Simon, who had sentences very long. But I tried to liberate myself from this influence. But Proust is a writer who writes about the time and le temps. It's a time or le temps period of time. Lost time, the past, and he tried to explain how we live with the experience of time, subjective time.
Sure.
Okay. I don't make something like this. So the comparison with Proust is about my sentences, I think, and my work about the transformation of the societies, because Proust relates a situation of a French society when the aristocracy class had no more power, and a new class of society went to the power, and he is very nostalgic of the period before. I am not nostalgic from the period before, but I speak about the period, the ancient periods, about the Lebanese and the Middle East before the independence days, before First and Second World War. But I'm not nostalgic. I'm trying to understand how all the societies, or every societies, came to the apogee, to this
peak.
The peak, yes, and after he fell down. And this is what I am interested by. And then try to experience about Lebanon, but because Lebanon offered 2 times the situation of a society arrived to a peak and fell down. So it is I forgot.
Well, we're going with the differences between you and Proust, yes. But really what the project itself is. Yeah.
No, the project was to tell the story of this. No, I don't understand because we spoke about the project.
I go into all sorts of little digressions and divagations all the time, so don't worry if we're not keeping up. It's okay.
Digressions because my books are plenty of digressions. Yes,
I noticed. Yes. So I didn't think it would bother you particularly. What sort of challenge is it rendering Lebanon artistically and reckoning with the political landscape of the present day and sort of looking back into the various phases of its history? How, what did that involve? Or are there challenges related to the public reception of your work based on whatever the current political climate is? Is the audience receptive to understanding the history of Lebanon?
Yes, because I think that Lebanon is living now. All the 20th century, Lebanon lived some repetitive history about problems which are never never find resolution. So we go from crisis to another crisis without resolution. So when I spoke, in my third book, I tell the story of the situation in Lebanon just before the first civil war in 1975. The period where Lebanon was in dynamism and is a very big rich country with speculation, and we built and we sell and buy, and we have commercial activities, and we have a port of transit. It's rich countries, and with night fevers, bars and cafes, and restaurants. Yes, okay. Yeah. And in the same time, we have a very big crisis because we had Palestinians camps with Palestinians had army inside Lebanon, and nobody had any problem with this. Nobody regard to see problems coming, like people living under a volcano. And hear a volcano and don't mind about volcano. And one day, volcano explodes. So, and this happened. The volcano explodes. You say explodes, okay? And erupt. Yes. Volcano erupt, and we have 15 years of war. Now we are in the same situation, if I can say. We have the same city with dynamism, with commerce, with Saturday night fever. Every day it's Saturday night fever. But we have problems with some militia, some army in the States, Hezbollah, etc. And we have many volcanoes around us, Syria, Iraq, etc. And people don't mind. We continue our life, and we sell and we buy, and we have money, and we try. Okay, it's the same situation now than in 20 or 40 or 50 years ago. So when I relate the story of the situation before the civil war in Lebanon in one of my books, some people in France, not specifically, asks me why you don't speak about Lebanon today. I am speaking about Lebanon today when I speak about Lebanon 50 years ago. It's the same situation, whereas the situation repeats itself. Yeah. So, in public, when I speak about the past of Lebanon, understand what I'm speaking about. And there is another thing about my books. Like I try to tell the story and the story of history of societies that fell down after the apogee of the peak. And it could be the Roman Empire history and at his end. It could be the Byzantine history at Byzantine Empire at his when he fell down. It can be it could be the situation of any country in the world, every civilization when they arrive at peak and fell down. So when I tell this story, many of the public who don't know what is Lebanon is interested by this history of the societies and the civilizations when they don't mind about their future. As they don't have any idea about their past. They live in present. And without having any attention to the dangers of the immediate future.
Had you considered writing as a historian as opposed to a novelist, or is it really?
No, I'm novelist, yeah. And I use history. I use history as a background because I would like to experience or to understand how people, the human person negotiate his relation with history, not especially when the history came to a crisis. When people, like in the Guepardo of Lampedusa, when in every book I have a character who have to confront the changes of history, the change by war or by many crises. So I'd like to know how the man, the character, have to deal with the crisis, with history, with the changes, with the transformation of his city, of the transformation of his society, transformation of the political world around him. If he feels the transformations are coming and he negotiates with these transformations, if he don't want to mind about transformations, so he made like blind people. He don't want to see. Yes. Yeah. Or he don't accept the changes, and he try to resist to the changes, and the changes come and destroyed him and the society where he is living.
Do you consider yourself a Lebanese writer or a French writer, or is that a false idea?
I am a Lebanese writer because all my the contents of my books, the stories I am telling, are Lebanese. I'm from history of Lebanon and society of Lebanon, but and I write especially my first lectures, my first readers. In my mind, I write for a Lebanese reader because I know there's a first reader who will understand what I'm telling is a Lebanese reader. But I have also in mind the French reader because if all the stories I'm telling are Lebanese, my writing, my style, all what I put in my sentences, the form of my sentence is due to my French culture, to my all what I read about in literature. I I read French literature. I teach French literature. So I have stories from Lebanon and the style from French literature. So I am Franco-Lebanese writer.
You lived in Paris from, I think, 1980 to 1993?
Yeah.
That's on your Wikipedia page. I didn't do that much research, but I could figure that out in French. So, what did the experience in Paris, or how did your time in Paris inform your understanding of Beirut and Lebanon?
Yeah.
What was that distance like for you, and how did it help or hurt?
So I lived in Aix-en-Provence, in the south of France, but it's the same. When you are far from your country, you can have a capacity to think about it, and you see it from far. It's very interesting. And I came back frequently to Beirut for 1 month, 1 or 2 months, and it was very interested to see how the situation, the evolution of the situation, and how the things change. And I am very, very interested by changes. Like I tell you. So I felt the transformations of the society, especially because when I lived in France, Lebanon was in war, and so every time I came back, the situation was a new form of evolution. So I saw Lebanon. I lived Lebanon, and when I came back, it was another Lebanon. So I saw two Lebanon, and this is very important for me because what I want to tell is the changes and transformations. But when I was in France, mainly it's my readings, the books I read, and the new manner to appreciate books, because I studied French literature in France, helped me to understand through Faulkner, through Lampedusa, through Proust, how I will be able one day to speak about Lebanon in another way than other Lebanese authors who spoke about Lebanon from inside Lebanon.
Mm-hmm. So you did need that
recul. In France, we have the
recul.
Comment on dit recul? Yes. Distance. Yes. Distance.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned having a Lebanese audience first, a French audience. What's your conception of an American reader for your work, since you have your first book out in America now?
What is my
What do you think an American audience is looking for?
My idea of American audience is the idea of what all around the world to have some about American. All the world have some idea about America and imagination about American people. I don't know if it's right or no, but when we are in France, we are in Italy, and in Lebanon, Arab countries, wherever, we have an idea about the American society. People tell you that in America we have a big part of the population not very interested by the other world, but the world, or whole the world, by lecture, by culture. But you have a public very cultured and great readers. So I am very intimidated at the idea that I will be read. Oh no. American readers read my books. I am intimidated, but I don't know how they will receive their book. I don't know, but
I enjoyed it immensely. So that's
okay.
You got one good reader on our side. So, like I said, anything that's going to remind me of Calvino and Lampedusa.
Thank you very much.
That's high praise as far as I'm concerned.
Calvino is the first time somebody tells me about Calvino, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy. Yes, really.
To me, it was the exploration.
Invisible cities. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
That to me.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I like it. Okay.
that Marco Polo aspect of
yes. Yeah.
wandering through the desert and finding these marvels.
Yeah.
were you involved in the translation of the book, or did you have much input in how it was translated into English? And what was that process like? If you were
the process, I read the translation when it finished. No, yes, but I read it. I find very great pleasure to read. I have the sensation that I am reading my book, but a new book in the same time.
Yeah.
And I am very, very pleased to see and to rediscover the rhythm, the scansion, the rhythm, the musicality of my sentences in the English version. And when I have some occasion to read translations notably from languages I practice, notably the Arabic translation for my books, I say that the important is not to translate the ideas, but to translate the rhythm, the musicality of the sentences. It's the most important thing. If the text translate very good the ideas and not the quality of sentences, the form of the text, it's a bad translation. In the English translation, I felt the movement, the rhythm, yes, and the rhythm of my sentences and the musicality, and I was very happy.
How did you start out as a writer?
Sorry?
How did you find yourself as a writer? What was your upbringing?
I find myself. I don't remember when is the first time I wrote, but I think I beginning writing and at 9 or 10 years old.
That's about the age.
Yes. All my life I want to be a writer. I don't know why. I don't know from where this came, but my project in life was to be a writer. And when I look to the world, to the people, to the cities, to the countries, when I travel, when I look to the society, to the people around me, I look from I'm a child, and I think how I can relate this in sentences. So I think I'm a writer from the first breath.
Yeah. Were either of your parents in the arts?
No, but my mother was a great reader, and we had books in my home. I have my grandfather write some articles about some events in Sudan, and I
stole them from
yes. But no. In my family, I was mathematicians, not literary people. I don't know why.
Were they supportive of the idea of being a writer?
Yes, my parents, yes, they have no problem. My father was a merchant, on dit, marchand, commerçant. Merchant. And he find very strange to write, to read, but when my mother told him, no, it's very good. Your son will be a great writer. So, okay, if he will be a great writer, it's okay.
Then it's okay. It's like my son, the doctor. That's always, okay. If he's the greatest, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask we talked about that French or Lebanese writer. Within your world in Beirut, where you teach and where you write, is there tension at all between the French and Lebanese Arab identities?
Identity in the same person or in the society?
I think within the societies.
No, because French in Lebanon is a culture of and the language of media class and the media and upper class. And it's a language of culture. Not you don't use French in the street with the. So there is no tension. But when you hear some people speaking French, you know they are from class, from religion, especially Christians speak French. But no tensions, because everyone in Lebanon learn French in school, but they don't use it especially, or yes. And there is some people who use French for snobism. I'm French, I speak French.
It's the perfect language for it.
Yes, it's perfect, yes. So this is the only thing which causes some tensions between people. And you speak French, you are Frenchy, you are snob. Okay, it's okay. But in the culture, no, I think between Arabic and French writers, we feel ourselves Lebanese writers, I think, and we speak about the same things and the same problems. There is no conflict between us.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was some colonial tension that French writers are treated.
No, it's because it's the situation of French and French culture and French language in Lebanon is not the same that as in Algeria.
Sure.
We have no problem with French as a colonial language, because French is not the French culture and the French language as a francophonie, like I say. In Lebanon is not the result of the colonialism of France, because Lebanese people is maybe the only people who spoke the language, European language, before coming of the European colonialism, because we spoke French from 19th century in Lebanon, or France came to Lebanon in 1920. Because Lebanese want to establish relations with Europe and French before the colonization, because the Christians, Lebanese Christians, need to have some support in the European countries. They like the French culture. They speak French. They spoke French very early, and the difference between us and other colonial country will be a colonial situation, that we want France to come to Lebanon and to stay, because especially Christians think that France will help them, will protect them. And when France came to Lebanon, they built Lebanon for Christian. So Lebanon was built like a Christian country for Christians of Lebanon, and the Christians are allied with France. So we speak French, and we like the French language, and we have no problem with this language like a colonial language. We use it as our language.
Where does Lebanon go in the future? You've said, spent these 5 books chronicling its transformation, and you see these repetitive cycles. Do you have an image?
No, great problem, because as I said, we are a society who did not see it as its future. We live in the present, eternal present. We have many, many problems, and the problems are the same as in the past, and we don't mind. But the only thing I think the only thing we are able to be the only thing that we don't want to enter in a new war, a civil war. Mm-hmm. We have the same symptoms, but we are very attentive to not to go to the result of these symptoms, so civil war. Now, because all the people who lived the first civil war are still alive. But the second generation, the third generation, the young people who did not know, who don't know who don't
live through it.
The war, the civil war, can be fascinated by the war and repeat it in the future. I don't know. We are in a big dilemma. We don't know what Lebanon will be in 10 years, 15 years, and it's very, very effrayant. We have a fear about this because we have wars all around us. Well, Lebanon is unstable. Too much communities, too much cultures, too much people, too much immigrants, too much refugees. But maybe this is what make Lebanon a special country, that we are in all these problems. We live like we are in Paris or in London. This is a
As somebody who has lived in Paris, does a comparison hold up when you visit other countries or other cities in the Mediterranean? Does Beirut, kind of rank pretty high by those standards?
It's the same traditions, the same way of life, the same cuisine, the same manner of speaking. It's the same tradition, families, clans, the same transactions between people. But Beirut is a multicultural city, like Alexandria was in the past. And this is maybe the thing which make Beirut a special city. We have many communities, religious communities. Each community has its culture, its manner of life, its way of life, and all this live side by side without really problem.
No clash.
No clash, quotidian clash. Huh? And this was the characteristic of many cities in the Mediterranean, Alexandria, Algeria, and Algiers, the city of Algeria. But now all these countries had put a term to this multiculturalism. Beirut is the only city where you live this multiple way of lives in the same city, and many languages we have in Lebanon. We have French and Arabic and English, and people speak Armenians, and people now you have Kurd, some Kurdistani. You have some immigrants went back and come with their languages. We hear you can hear Portuguese, you can hear Spanish. It's and this is a specific characteristic of Beirut. You don't find this in the other continents and the other cities of Mediterranean, I think.
Mm-hmm. Although we get plenty of it here in New York
City.
Yes,
here, New York, yes. Okay.
Yeah, what's your American experience been like? How much of America have you?
It's the first time.
I was going to ask.
My second day. It's a second day.
I wasn't sure if you'd ever been here before. Okay, so did you? Do you have things you want to do in America? Did you have a list of, while I'm in America, I need to do this,
yes,
the hot dog, etc. But
yes, many lists. I am passionate by two things: by architecture and architecture, and I like to understand how the city evolved. Yes. So
New York is very weird. There's an 1,100-page book called The Power Broker that kind of explains how a lot of this city became this city.
Yes.
But you probably don't have time to read it.
No, I don't have time, but I like to be in the city and to look, and after I read about. I don't read before.
Yeah.
I have some references to know why I'm going this, but I found already some differences between some buildings between another. Even when the buildings are side by side, I felt some differences. From quartier from neighborhood to another one, I felt some differences. I am very happy at the perspective that I will read about, and maybe I will understand what is the evolve of the city.
There's another good one. I'll email Michael afterwards. Delirious New York by Rem Koolhaas, Dutch architect who kind of explains the evolution of a certain period of New York City and the skyscraper era and how that all came together. One of the interesting things for me about American cities compared to European ones has been our cities weren't built around fortresses and defensive war positions the way you see in a lot of European cities, that they're built in defensive rings.
Yeah.
We didn't have invaders the same way in America. So
you are the invaders.
Yeah, we came in and killed everybody. So, and I'm first generation American.
No, I know, I joke.
Yeah. Oh no, trust me, I live in a town, and I've told this story before. I live in a town that was founded in 1742. Now, by American standards, that's pretty old. It's connected to the Revolutionary War history when we overthrew English control. But the town handbook, the little guide they give people when they move into the town, when I was a child, it explained how the town was founded in 1742.
What's town?
A town called Ringwood. It's about 25 miles north and west of here. But one of the things that was included in it was the line that this region was previously a hunting ground for the Lenni Lenape Indians, but with the arrival of the Europeans, their way of life had to come to an end. That's how it was put in our town handbook, that their way of life had to come to an end. Yeah, so we're all complicit in this history in America. But yeah, it's one of those things where our cities grew from a different set of priorities, I guess. At least they didn't have the same organizing principles as some European cities, and I don't know.
New York or your city?
New York in particular, but when you travel around the country, outside of Indian attacks, they really didn't have to have forts.
This is the difference between the American cities and the European cities, yes, and all the, yes. But in New York, you have, in my opinion, my interest is to find the difference between architecture of before the architecture. Oh, it's too complicated.
Before World War II?
No, no, architecture of the period of development of great financial fortunes and families, with the buildings of great big societies, which we find in cinemas. And you know, that's the problem with New York, that when every people come to New York, I come to New York, like every people, with an idea of New York. Of an imagination about New York, what we saw in films and in books, and especially in cinema, and the songs, and we have an idea of New York, and we try to find New York, the New York we saw in films of our imagination, and we have. I think I am now in the second day of my stay in New York. I am in the phase where I have to adjust my imagination about New York with the real New York, and it's not easy because whatever you look at, yes, I remember this. Oh no, it's not like I saw in the films. And you have to put inside in the
Put aside
the images of New York to see real in New York, and it's a big work.
Do you have one particular film or other idea of New York that really was there a particular movie that
Citizen
meant
Kane.
New York? Citizen Kane was wow. There are some nice ones in the East 40s if you head over in that direction. Just old
skyscraper.
The East 40s area near Grand Central Station. There are some. They're office buildings, but they still have this older style to them. It's one of those. I live where I grew up in the same house, and when you leave my town, from 25 miles away, you can see the New York skyline in the distance. This has always been my idea of a city. So when I travel, that's a nice city, but it's not New York until I get to Paris and places like that are so different, but so wonderful. In America, this is the great one. Chicago is an interesting city also in terms of the architecture and how it works.
Chicago was the rival, right?
They rebuilt after the I forget when the big fire was, but the neat thing, if you get to Chicago while you're in America, the buildings can be really, really tall, but they're not imposing on you in quite the same way. They kind of sweep back from you. They can be a little more welcoming while there's still these wonderful...
More welcoming.
Yeah. Yeah. In New York, you can have a sense of being crushed by the buildings sometimes.
Yes. But Jean-Paul Sartre said in one of his texts that when you come to New York, you have the impression that you will be crushed by the hires of, but it's not the case because the buildings aspire you to the sky.
It's a good way to look at it. So. Who else should we be reading?
Sorry?
Who else should we be reading from your literary circles from Lebanon? Yeah, who?
No.
What other authors?
I read?
Yeah, who should we read as Americans that we're not of course we should all be reading.
I don't understand, excuse me.
What other Lebanese authors or books would you want an American reader to know about?
Okay. Maybe it depends what the American reader want to read about, but I think Elias Khoury, I don't know if you know Elias Khoury, and maybe literature which is different of what the public will expect about Arabic literature. Literature which use Arabic language with because every language have a story about his. Non, on va arrêter ça. C'est trop difficile. Non. Dommage. Non, parce que il y a chaque langue il y a un cliché autour d'une langue. Et l'arabe, c'est toujours des langues phrases, c'est la longueur. Il y a des écrivains qui utilisent l'arabe de manière très sèche, comme ça, et qui coupent, et qui donnent une autre image de la langue arabe et des sociétés arabes en faisant quelque chose de très très moderne. Mais j'arriverai jamais, ça. C'est pas grave.
He says there are certain Arab writers who use the language in a very cliched way to get a cliched understanding of the society. Those writers, would you like to name a few that you think should be read by American readers?
Yes, somebody like Rashid Al-Da'if. He's translated to English, I think. He used Arabic in another way. Short sentences and not very lyric. Some people think that Arabic is very lyric, is a poetry, language of poetry. Then Rashid uses Arabic with short sentences, like a therapist, like a chirurgical manner, and he offers another way to look to the Arabic societies and the Arabic situation today, the Arabic societies, than the traditional way of, camels and lyrics and poetics and deserts and.
Last real question. Who are you reading? What books did you bring with you for this trip?
I have one book. It's a book of French writer Blaise Cendrars. It's Moravagine. It's the history of an adventure and it's all around the world. An adventurer who became a dictator and who tried to find gold, and the history of I am very inspired by Blaise Cendrars, and I have students who will maybe write thesis about it, this book, and so I reread this book and I bring it with me.
Are there other books that you find yourself returning to that you read again and again?
Yes, Proust. It's French writers, but not only Proust, Chateaubriand, and Claude Simon. It's a French writer, Claude Simon, and I have an American writer I like very, very much. Is Cormac McCarthy. I read it 2 or 3 times. The trilogy of I don't know.
Oh, the horses.
Yes, all the pretty horses, and I am very influenced by. And in my next book, I have one chapter very inspired by Cormac McCarthy, and especially about Mexico and the frontier between Arkansas and Mexico.
Which I suppose I should ask: what is the next project for you?
I have a book a book which will be published in September in France, about family genealogy of Lebanese family from the middle of the 19th century till 2015. But the difference is that, like in Moving the Palace, we have 4 or 5 of these members of families who will go all around the world. So we have an episode in Mexico, an episode in Russia, an episode in Italy, in Greece. So it's Lebanon and all the world around.
I'm looking forward to an English translation of it, Michael, if you want to
I hope
make this happen too. Charif Majdalani, thanks so much for coming on the Virtual Memories Show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good.
And that was Charif Majdalani. His novel, Moving the Palace, just came out in English from New Vessel Press, and it's fantastic. I will probably buy a stack of them soon to give out as gifts, but you should go get one of your own in case you're not on my gift list. The translation's by Edward Govan, who actually sounds like a pretty interesting guy himself. So go buy Moving the Palace at wherever the heck you buy books. You can find out more about it and its publisher at newvesselpress.com. That's just like it sounds. NEWVESSELPRESS. Now, this one was recorded, like I mentioned, at the home of Charif's publisher, Michael Z. Wise, in the Upper West Side. So that involved the George Washington Bridge toll, parking at a garage on 95th Street. I did combine the trip with another pod session, which will be coming up in a few weeks. That was down in the West Village, so there was also subway fare, etc. So in total, it was about $50 or so, plus coffee. If you want to help defray some of the costs of the Virtual Memories Show, like web hosting, travel, equipment, etc., then visit patreon.com/VMSpod or paypal.me/VMSpod and make a one-time or recurring donation. A special thanks go out to Kevin Katila, John Wendler, Fred Kish, Jonathan Kranz, Wallace Wilde Manozzi, Andrew Mason, Greg Tanner, Garrett Zecker, Craig P. Steffen, and Ron Slate for going over and above in their support of the Virtual Memories Show. We've got the full list of show supporters at chimeraobscura.com/VM. Now, our music for this episode is Nothing's Gonna Bring Me Down by David Bayerwald, used with permission from the artist. David has a reunion project going with his great 80s band David and David, who did the wonderful album Welcome to the Boomtown. You can find out more and support that at facebook.com/DavidandDavidMusic. And that's it for this week's Virtual Memories Show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with return guest George Prochnik, author of the fantastic new book Stranger in a Strange Land, Searching for Gershom Scholem and Jerusalem. Those of you who know me pretty well know that when somebody says, oh, I have a new book coming out about the history of Gershom Scholem and Jerusalem, that's pretty much catnip for me. So this was a really fun episode to do. George previously wrote about Stefan Zweig, so clearly he's just my Tyler Durden alter ego. Whenever I have an insomniac phase, I must actually be writing these books under his pseudonym. Anyway, until next time, you can subscribe to the Virtual Memories Show and download past episodes at the iTunes Store. Or you can visit soundcloud.com/VMSpod. You can also go to YouTube and look up Virtual Memories Show, and you'll find the last 40 or 50 episodes there, too. You can find all our episodes and get on our email list at either of our websites, vmspod.com or chimeraobscura.com/VM. You can also follow the Virtual Memories Show on Twitter, where I make dumb jokes, on Instagram at VMSpod, on Facebook at facebook.com/virtualmemoriesshow, and at virtualmemoriespodcast.tumblr.com. Not that I know anybody who still uses Tumblr, but what the hell. And if you like this show, please go to iTunes, look up the Virtual Memories Show, and leave a rating and review for this podcast. That'll help us build a bigger audience. Until next time, you've been listening to the Virtual Memories Show. I'm your host, Gil Roth, and you are awesome. Keep it that way.